Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Signature West Podcast. I'm your host, Sam West from Palm Springs, California. As you know, I'm a seasoned real estate agent since 1991, and I bring you the podcast to bring you inspiring stories. Today is no exception. My guest today is Case Erickson. And Case Erickson lost everything that thought made him successful. Let's find out what that is. Hi, Case.
Hello, Sam. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So you're an author, a producer, and a coach and a consultant, all of the above. But before we get into all that, I want you to define what you meant when you said that you lost everything that you thought made you successful.
Oh, well, let's see. All these constructs that I feel our ego. I have a distinction between ego and it's our brain, the things that our brains come up with and things that our hearts come up with. So sometimes our brain comes up with these constructs that a perceived notion of lack, or well, I got to make up for something, so I have to prove myself, or have this, that, or the other thing, right? And so, not that there's anything wrong with those things inherently, it's more about the motivation behind those things. So, I had owned multiple restaurants, multiple businesses. I've been in residential real estate, commercial real estate, produced food truck festivals and events, restaurant consulting. I sold those restaurants. I wrote a book, did the TEDx thing, and had a relationship. And somewhere along the way, I believe my heart wanted to learn the lesson of the things that truly mattered. And so, those things, while I intentionally didn't, set out to air quote fail, um, I ended up losing those things as an opportunity for me to evaluate really what mattered in my life. And also, I believe I wanted to truly relate to myself as resilient and I'll say strong in my weakness. I wanted to view the world as a kind and supportive place, a place where community can thrive and flourish in authenticity. Like I don't have to have it all together, right? Like it's okay to fall apart. Like it's okay to lose a business, lose a house, lose a relationship. So I've done all those things. I've lost all the things that I created, and really found myself in the process, sort of found that stillness underneath, let's say, the tumultuous storm on the surface of the ocean, right? There's high tide, there's low tide, there's little waves, there's big waves, but if you keep going down deep, 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 deep down, it's still. And it can be dark and it can be isolating, but it can also be calming and reassuring. So that's what I got to give, I'll say, my heart, my spirit, whatever you want to call it, in the falling away, the burning away, or the loss of what I perceive to be important in my life, and truly finding something greater than all those things, which was my true essence.
So would you say the gain from all the losses is finding yourself?
Yeah, but really, a lot of people say that, and it's kind of like, what does that mean? Like,
Right. What
it
does that
feels
mean?
very,
Right.
it feels very esoteric. Like, what do you
Right.
mean you found yourself? You lost yourself? You what is that? What does that even mean? And it's hard to put those. It's a challenge for me to put those into words, um, because I feel like so much of my journey up until very recently, like within probably the past few years, predominantly 5 years, has been pursuit of those accomplishments and believing that those things were coming from myself. Myself was really like my brain and my ego, and motivating from a space of there's something wrong with me, or I have to prove myself, or I have to earn X, Y, or Z. I have to earn love, validation, all those things, and feeling like, well, that's who I am. Well, I came to find out that's not really who I am. That's a part of who I am, but that's not all of who I am, and that my belief is not my, let's say, highest divine, authentic self, and realizing that is who I really am. So there are these distinctions around my identity, I'll call it.
So you were married to a woman for 14 years.
Yes.
Uh, when did that end?
14 years ago, over 14 years ago. So
So
I, what's that?
when was it? When was the last? When did it end?
Oh, let's see, 20, what's the math? 2011, 2012, 14 years
So
ago.
and when did you come out, or were you out prior to?
Well, it was not so much a coming out as it was choosing authenticity, I'll say, or
Okay.
realizing that there wasn't necessarily anything wrong with me on account of the religious trauma that I endured, spiritual abuse, whatever you want to call it. I grew up in Southern Baptist fundamentalist cult-like communities growing up. My father had his Master's of Divinity from Dallas Baptist Theological Seminary, very black, white, Bible Belt type thing. My mother worked for televangelist Pat Robertson for 23 years. I
Oh
also
dear.
went to Jerry Falwell's Liberty University, graduated from there. I was on the ministry team there. And so I was very deeply in the narrative
Wow.
of that community that believes there's only heterosexuality exists. Like that is God's design. And if you feel any other way other than that, it is, you know, it could be a demon, it could be Satan trying to tempt you, it could be a thorn in your flesh. It's referred to all sorts of things. And so, you know, I never related to myself as gay. I related to myself as straight with a problem. And it wasn't until, you know, because that's what I was taught and that's the environment under which I was raised. And so I, you know, air quote came out when I was 19 to my parents and basically it was just a confessing my demons and you know told my wife before we got married, you know, we were fooling around all the time and she was the first person I had ever been with, and I thought, well, maybe I'm not gay, maybe I'm bi, maybe I'm just she's fixing me, or this is what I'm, this is who I am. And so I told her before we even got married. Used to think I was gay, but I guess I'm not anymore because we're hooking up all the time. So, you know, when the equipment works, you know, but I was like 20, 21. So it just took me a minute to discover, you know, the distinction between, you know, performing physically and being authentically, you know, attracted and stuff. And so, and it took me about that long to realize, you know, that whoever I was authentically acceptable to whoever I believed God to be at that time. Definitely came out of a lot of, you know, more conservative Christianity beliefs. And where I'm at now is I believe in a higher power. I believe that, you know, we don't have all the answers. There's a certain element of mystery and uncertainty that all of us are trying to reconcile ourselves with just by nature of existing as humans. So, I'm very sensitive to any certain set of beliefs that declares itself as capital T truth, right?
Right.
Like the
Right.
truth. And it's like there at where I'm at now are there are many truths, there are many paths. You know, my God holds the Christian God as well as the Jewish God. I mean, you can look at Christians and say they believe they're also kind of Jews as well. They're like the next phase of, you know, Jews don't
Right.
believe in the Christian God, but
Right.
The Christians believe in the Jewish God. So I believe in a God that holds all the things. So, you know, that it just took me a minute to really feel like okay to be me and okay to be gay. It was around 2011 where I was like reading, ironically, a passage in scripture where Christ healed this cripple, and he broke the law. He healed on a Sunday or Saturday, Sabbath, whatever. And boy, man, those religious people did not like that, and they were like, you're a rule breaker." And, you know, it was like at the time, I felt like whoever Christ, God, higher power, whatever that was at the time, cared more about my freedom and was like, take up your mat and walk, get out, like be yourself, don't stay in the wheelchair, you know, all those types of things, cared more about my freedom than whatever I perceived the law to be at the time.
Right.
So that was
Right.
literally the first time I thought it was okay for me to be gay. And then I was like,
Right.
if it's okay for me to be gay, why do I have a wife? That doesn't make sense.
Right.
So I'd been married almost 14 years when I thought that, and then kind of started the
Right.
dissolution
And then,
for that.
during your practice, your business practice, you had a client. The client was a client for 5 years. And then I believe you guys start dating or seeing each
Hmm.
other.
Hmm.
Was it love at first sight, or was it just kind of a process that started gradually?
I definitely processed it, started gradually. It was an attachment. I'm pretty much an attachment expert. If you want to talk about insecure attachments, attachment theory, anxious avoidant trap, anxious avoidant loop, disorganized attachment style, that's pretty much, I was in the loop with him for 5 plus. Well, we became, I'll say, intimate when I started after I produced food truck festivals for about 7 years, and then COVID happened. And then I lost my business because of COVID. And then so I was very limited as to what I could do. And I just started doing all sorts of things to make money and hustle and keep food on the table and those types of things. And I made a Facebook post of, hey, anybody need anything? Need me to watch their house, watch their dog? You need a massage, whatever you need. It's so at the time he was my client. I was doing email. I was managing his email marketing and his social media, and I was doing photography and his business. He had actually sponsored the festival a couple times, so I'd known him for over 10 years at the time. And so he was
Before you start to date,
right. Like,
you've
and
known
we
him.
didn't,
So you've known him well.
yeah, we didn't date for almost a year. Like, I started giving him massages, and that's when we kind of crossed the
Oh dear,
physical
of course,
boundaries. Yeah.
of course.
I mean, I know it sounds like so gay
No,
cliche. It
listen,
does.
yeah,
It
it is
does.
what
But
it is. Yeah.
I was like, it was nice. And we did that for close to a year, I would say. And then he invited me on a date. And then we started dating, and we got engaged shortly thereafter. And then we broke up, and then it started kind of the whole yo-yo thing with letting go, come back, let go, come back. Yeah,
But you said he wanted an arrangement, you wanted a relationship.
right.
Define that or explain that.
I don't know that he would say that, but that's how it occurred to me because in my world, it takes something to be in a relationship. It takes a lot of things
It's a lot of
to be.
work. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's
It's a lot of work.
compromise. It's
Yeah.
compromise, right? Not every
It's not easy.
What I learned is there's this level of authenticity that's required, and learning what an authentic fit even is. So he was pretty much my first serious relationship out of my marriage. I dated one other dude for about 6 months, and but this guy was my first serious thing. So I was in the closet and suppressed for so long. I mean, from my entire youth up until 35 years old. That's when I got divorced at 35. So I didn't have the experience of dating, of fooling around with anybody, learning what I liked, what I don't like. I had a suppressed adolescence, right? And so we see this a lot in the queer community, particularly those that were under religious suppression, what we call a delayed adolescence. So, kind of having to, and then that's when I disassociated from myself. I fractured from myself. I said, oh, this isn't acceptable to my community, my society, as a teenager and all the parents, all those things fractured. And then I, became almost like two different people. And
Hmm.
so my soul's journey is about reconciling myself with myself, coming back to myself, like shedding all the bullshit. And so, you know, um, in that experience, it was like, oh, my relationship with this guy, while I love him dearly, I will always love him. It's like almost like the kind of love that do you have kids, Sam?
No.
Okay, so but you can understand having children, or maybe your parents, like the love that you have for someone who's not necessarily like you're not sharing life, and the
My
child.
dog, my dog is my child. I mean, he's
Yeah,
more than a
same,
child.
same.
Yeah.
I've got two kids, but my dog
Yeah.
is like mine. I share my
Right.
custody with my kids with my ex-wife, so my dog is like just mine. But
Right.
anyway, it took me a minute to learn what I liked, what I didn't like, and what worked, what didn't work, what I need.
What you don't need.
The validity of my emotional needs in a relationship, right? Like I was taught like my needs don't matter. I was in a people pleasing, like cast what I think, like I don't deserve to have X, Y, or Z, like all this negative bullshit that like I've gotten to clear away and just be like, you know what? Yes, emotional needs in a relationship are valid, right? Like we have physical needs individually. You need to feed yourself, you need to hydrate, those are physical needs. And when you're in a relationship, that relationship becomes its own entity. You have person A, person B, and then the relationship is really an entity C. It's the third thing that you have to make
Right.
sure gets fed and then the
Right.
needs are met, and those are valid. So two people coming together need to be in alignment for that entity to be fed and nourished and healthy. And so if you're not in alignment, so what I learned was like, oh, this is what I value. These are my core values. This is what I need. We need alignment with in areas of faith, family, finances, XYZ, all these things. And that was what was required for me to be in a relationship. And either he was unwilling or incapable of meeting those needs. And that's okay. Like that's okay for me because then that's like in my mind I make it like okay, well, we always had this kind of transactional history, right? And so while we transcended that and our feelings for one another certainly transcended transactionality, he still wanted that the convenience of and that's what I mean by arrangement. And
Arrangement. Right.
he's like a wealthy guy, and so like very wealthy, very like this is how I want it. I want you here this time, and this time. And then if I had anything to say about it, it was like, well, why can't you da da da? And why can't you da da da? And so very much a textbook kind of dismissive avoidant, which was very similar to my ex-wife, who was a covert narcissist. So orientation mismatch aside, that was a whole other thing that I got to dismantle around being gaslit and invalidated.
So since you've been married and you have that experience with describing emotional needs and understanding that process, although I've never been married to a woman, so I can't talk about that, but I've been certainly involved in enough men relationship and I can relate to that. Would you say you were experienced enough in that topic when you were dating the male and able to distinguish and able to identify and able to ask, I need this. This is not good enough for me. This is not going to work out that way. Were you experienced? Would you say you were experienced enough to claim those things?
No, because if I was, I would have them.
So how did you decide that this is not working out for me? How did you not try another one and another one and another one to
I
finally say,
mean,
you know what, I've been through 5 gay relationships and now I know what doesn't work for me. How were you able to do it so quickly in the first gay relationship?
well, I mean, like I definitely, so when I came out, I think I didn't necessarily have a big wild coming out thing because my children were relatively young at the time,
Okay.
uh, 5 and 1, right? And so I didn't necessarily go down the big time party route, do, all but like I've had my share of fun times and certainly no judgment on how anybody needs to do whatever they need to do. So I allowed myself to experiment for sure. And, I think coming out of the dysfunctional marriage, sexual orientation mismatch aside, there were lots of betrayal wounds. I mean, she'd had an affair with my best friend for 3.5 years, like 9 or 10 years previous to that. And then we reconciled, and then we opened 3 restaurants and had
So
two
there's
kids.
a pattern here.
Right. And so
There's a pattern.
yeah, we opened 3 restaurants and had 2 kids within 5 years, and then moved from DC to Austin. And then a year later, she did it again. And so that really took me out because, that's just what happens with the betrayal, right? And
Right,
so
right,
I definitely have had my share of commitment issues and fear
right.
of commitment because of those betrayal wounds. And so I was not looking for a relationship right out of the gate. Like I said, hadn't been with anybody ever other than her, one person. And so, like I had to give myself some room to figure out physically what I
Right,
liked, what I didn't
right.
like, all those things. So, that I believe that the amalgamation of all the factors of, my financial self and my spiritual self and my physical self and coming into sobriety, I've, been sober from alcohol for 8 years. I lost probably close to 40 pounds and, I'm a big yoga meditator, all those things. Really seeking that alignment has been, it's just taken me the time that it's taken me.
Right, right, right.
I joke.
So go ahead.
No, I just say I jokingly say that I drive the short bus
Right.
and I take the long way.
Okay.
Like, it takes the time that it takes, Sam.
So the phrase, yeah, God, don't we all? So the phrase um, silence avoidance, or is it avoidance silence?
Void of silence?
Void of silence. Yes.
Okay.
I think you shared that um, in your post.
Mm,
Or is it unnecessary avoidance or something with avoidance?
okay.
And I want to know, is that the same as ghosting? Is that what happened between you after the breakup?
No, no. Avoidance is in the world of attachment theory. There's, typically what you'll find is a combination of an anxious attack. These are all insecure attachment styles. So
Right.
there's an anxious one who favors, no, I shouldn't say favors, but usually there's an anxiously attached. So that's a person who gets all like squirrely and gets ang and then there's an avoidant. So the avoidant has patterns of running away, shutting down, walking away. When things get too blah, 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 they run away. But like
Right.
the key for the avoidant is to realize that running away is actually what triggers the anxious person's blah, blah, blah. And then the anxious person needs to also realize that there are also times when that blah, 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 makes the other person run away. So it really takes an understanding of both people's patterns to transcend the insecurity and move from insecurity to security.
And
So,
that in itself is a full time beyond understanding to get two people with their own issues and their own God knows what, and they're all hurt. Let's just call it. They broke up, so they're a little bit hurt for whatever reason. You did this to me, I did that to you, and then you want that to online, which I've been, at least for me, it happens every fucking breakup.
uh,
Let's be friends, great, and then they're gone without a word.
right.
Avoidance. I'm like,
Yeah.
what happened? And then I start to feel the shame, the
Uh-huh.
guilt. Did I do something wrong? Did I hurt that person? Should I not have broken up with that person? Should have, could have. And all I said was, this is not working out. So when I
Yeah.
heard your avoidance, I was like, this is more common than I think. At least to me, it almost happened in every breakup.
Yeah.
I am not friends with any of my exes for that reason.
Okay.
For that reason, not because I don't want to, because they say let's, and then next thing you know, well, I give me a minute, let me
Right.
cry myself to sleep for a minute, and then we'll talk
Yeah.
tomorrow. And then tomorrow is like 5 years later, and they haven't been able to, reach out.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
find that very fascinating, which we call it now ghosting. I guess the new term is
Uh,
ghosting. Uh, so yeah, that, and I think your theory is right on. One is maybe anxious, and I can fall for
mhm.
that category, and the other one wants to run away. But then try to align that, especially with adults. If you're in your 30s, I can understand that. But in your 60s, give me a fucking break. You know, you just
It's
get it together.
yeah.
We're not young anymore. We all have, we know, we're like, yeah, at least you
Right.
can, deal. Yeah. So, and then that takes me next and hopefully last to Codependence Anonymous.
Uh-huh.
How did you get involved in that and why? And how did it help you?
Well, I'm not a big devotee, and the thing with Codependence Anonymous is it's not necessarily that one spends, we don't promote it, or I'm not a spot, I'm not like it's not it's but I had some experience with Debtors Anonymous on account of, losing my business, and I call Debtors Anonymous my financial sobriety program. So, the whole intention with that program is to bring an air of spirituality to money management, which I really appreciate. Financial freedom, right? And so Codependence Anonymous, and then, I've been sober for 8 years and I didn't really fit into AA, like because it felt more like a chemical dependence thing for me, like nicotine, right? And
I
so
get that.
anyway, but I started reading a little bit about Codependence Anonymous, and they really address a lot of the root issues around self-love and self-abandonment. And so, step one of Codependence Anonymous is we admitted we were powerless over others. And I'm like, that's a good, like, just step one is like, of course, like, that's like the only thing I can control is myself. The only thing, my reaction, my mood, my like mindset, my everything, my life. I can't control any, like, the illusion of that I can control anyone else is, it's so void of any intelligence, yet so many people, myself included, feel like that's what I either want to try to do, or maybe I want to manipulate, or there's some emotional manipulation or something. Like, it's all bullshit, right?
Or at least I tell myself, well, let me explain how wrong he is so he can
Oh
do
yeah.
better. I mean, it's so obvious that
Right.
he's wrong. So let me tell
Right.
him how wrong you are so you can change and do better, which is
Right.
also, yeah,
Which is, yeah, it's another way of like wanting
another way
someone to
of,
change and control the other person. And so
right.
that I appreciate their kind of their the program for that. And also, I consider everything an other, right? Like money is another, sex is another, relationship is another, any substance outside of myself is an other. So, really addressing some of the root issues around self-love and um, being very deliberate around not abandoning myself. And so, which that's been my pattern, right? Like I abandoned myself to take a wife. Now, I didn't know that I was doing that. I wasn't consciously doing that. Like at the time, I legitimately believed maybe I'm not gay, and mixed with like, well, we're having sex all the time, so I better marry her because I came from purity culture, right? The purity culture that's like one man, one woman, you got to get married a virgin, you have to stay a virgin until marriage. I mean, the whole thing, which is crazy now as an adult for me to look at. And, as my son will be 20 next month,
Oh,
and for
wow.
me to be like, you have to wait till you get married, and once you get married you can only be with that person. Like it just feels so counterintuitive to logic. And anyway, and so the reconciling myself to myself while also discovering myself, it's like a constant, oh, okay, this is who I am, this is what works for me. What works for me today does is not what worked for me 10 years ago, right?
So
So
it's,
in a
so
in
it's
a partner,
basically,
what's that?
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like in a partnership, whatever that partnership looks like, whatever the relationship looks like, if that's a friendship or a work colleague, because I'm getting back into event production and producing events and doing all these amazing things and taking men to Santa Fe, men to Africa, men, going to Costa Rica. I've got a client, we're writing my next book, and there's this whole Costa Rican experience of, reconciling yourself to yourself. Is like that's what it's about, is that reconciliation to myself, and then finding and creating that alignment and being like, you know what? This is great. No, okay, that's not what I want. Okay, does this feel like a fit? Do we feel like we're gonna work together? Does feel, because I wanna feel good with my work. I want to feel like, yeah, we're in alignment. What's the intention? Are we have a shared intention? So these principles, even though I'm not in a, committed relationship at the moment, I provide these principles, or I hold these principles to my work relationships, or to my friendships, or to my children. I mean, we're constantly relating to one another and seeking that alignment and that fulfillment, to where I'm like, okay, Sam, this is what I need. I'm going to give myself what I need. You can give yourself what you need. And then we'll come together and create whatever is, maybe we'll create something. I mean, like you and I are creating this thing right now, and it's cool. And then we're going to do, well, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Right. Um, It's been 3 years since you broke up. You froze, by the way. Yeah, here we go. It's been 3 years since you broke up, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so, how are you with that now, with the codependency and that situation?
Well, we had the official breakup, I'll say, 3 years ago. And
Okay,
but
where are you now?
we were engaged, and I never really broke off the engagement, meaning
Okay,
and energetically, right?
okay.
I kept the dynamic alive.
What does that mean?
I stayed engaged. Like the rings weren't there. We weren't getting married, but
Were you sleeping together?
yeah,
Were you living together?
no,
So you're dating.
but
You're a
not,
couple.
it was this limbo. And
Right, okay.
unless you've been in a limbo relationship, like people who are in limbo know they're in limbo.
Right, I get
So
it. Yeah.
it was in limbo. It was, oh, maybe we can make it work. Oh, maybe this. Oh, maybe that. Oh, no. Oh, no. And then I'd be like, are we together? Oh, hey. And then he'd be like, oh, well, I'm just figuring it out. And then I would get tired and I would run away and be like, you can't just figure it out. He'd be like, but you broke my heart and you did this. And I'd be like, well, you did this and blah, 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 blah. Well, together, apart, together, apart. I mean, it went on like that for over 3 years.
So when was the final straw? When was the final finale? When was the final chapter?
It ended on a Monday, which is might be the name of my second book, when he told me he want, and it was like February, just like 2 months ago, where he told me he wanted to keep his options open.
Famous last words.
Uh,
Oh, God.
and he wanted to be able to fool around with his trainer, who
Of
was
course. Of
who was also
course.
his best friend, who may or may not be straight. We don't think he's entirely straight, but that's beside the point.
That's a
Um,
really good book. That's a really good book.
what, it ended on a
That's a
Monday.
really good. Yeah, no, the whole thing, this whole story, this whole
I
final
know.
chapter.
And so like
Yeah.
he told me that, and then he told me and if he did fool around with the trainer, he wouldn't tell me because he wouldn't want to betray the trainer. And so that to me, and then his trainer's also his best friend, and they leave each other love notes. And I'm like, Sam, this is the truth. Like there was a part of me that felt like I was in the way. And
You were, you
I
are, you were.
I genuinely love the man and I want him to be happy. And so
But you love yourself though.
but I have to love myself as
Yeah,
well, right?
yeah,
And so
yeah,
it's this tension and this like true love lets go and like, oh my
yeah,
God,
yeah,
what a painful, beautiful lesson to love someone so much to
yeah,
let them go,
yeah.
and when I was driving home after that, and we had actually had, you'll like this little story. Well, we had actually had a beautiful day previous to when he told me this, because he reached out to me for a massage. So of course I said yes. Because we were still, I was like, oh, okay, maybe we can do the client thing. I can still give you massage. I don't do massage full time, but I have a couple body work clients who I still see. And we had a beautiful, and so like he and I never really got into role play in our relationship. But for some reason that day, I was like, okay, you're the professor of massage school, and I'm like, this is my graduate exam. And I'm like, you have to tell me if I graduated, and like, do you like this? Do you like this, professor? Do I get a gold star? And so it was genuinely really, really
It was
fun.
fun. It was fun.
It was fun and it was
Fun.
nice and it was light and
Right,
all the
right,
things. And
right.
then we went out to eat after, and then we came back, and that's when he told me he dropped the bomb about the trainer, because the trainer had invited him to a date the next day to like some gay movie, and he was thinking he was going to get to possibly fool around. And then anyway, so I felt, for 3+ years I had a consistent feeling of feeling unchosen and rejected and all those things, because I could talk to you an hour about other things that happened that was
Right.
like that, but that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. So driving home, I wasn't necessarily sad because of the rejection and unchosen and all that thing. I was grieving the end. Like it very much occurred to me like, this is it. This is end. And not just the end, but like the death of hope,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
because what had kept me in there for as long as I was in there. Oh, I hope this will, oh, maybe one day, or oh, we love each other, maybe, 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 maybe. And then to finally get to the point of like, no more maybes is a dark and also beautiful place. to really, really be willing for myself to go there and like actually end it.
If
And
any
so,
consultation, if any feedback from a senior, what's the word to describe myself, for somebody that's been in this game since 1981,
uh-huh,
it's very common. It's very mind-boggling, and you're very fortunate, in my opinion, that you were able to see it for what it is and not get more self-harmed because it could go that direction because obviously the need and the ego and the neediness and the codependency and all that is in there. So but it happens more. I don't know about the straight world, so I can't speak for the ex-wife or that saga, but it's very common, it's very unfortunate, and I think I just had this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. I think it's very common for the gay culture because we most often than none we come from a broken background. So how do you expect me to deal with you as a whole in a relationship when I grew up in a broken relationships? I don't know what a whole looks like. I don't know what alignment looks like.
right,
So of course I'm gonna. So it takes a lot of practice to even understand and to do what you did. I mean, you did it one try. I have to say, and hopefully you won't do it again. You never know. You might. A different part of you might. Who knows? I have done it half a dozen times, and I finally said, "How did I do this again?" And then finally, the last one, I
right,
was like, a week two, I said, "This is not for me." Uh,
right.
it's just week two. So yeah, that's my. If I give you an advice of this, that can maybe keep in your back pocket.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah. Well, I thank you for coming here and sharing your story.
of course.
And
Thank you for letting
going
me.
in depth. Of course, I love doing this. I love doing this for that reason because everybody has a story, um, and I think it's really empowering to share stories for others to hear it. Like I've learned, I've been out a lot more than you have, but I've learned something, and
Mm,
hopefully the other way around. Just because I'm a senior in the gay out world
right.
doesn't make me immune from making
Yeah,
mistakes. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, so hats off to you and to your life experience and to enduring what you endured. Um, and yeah, good luck
Good
to you.
times. It's good times.
Yeah,
You know, we
yeah, yeah.
I was just texting a friend today, one sleigh at a time, right?
One sleigh at a time.
One sleigh at a time.
One sleigh at a time. Yeah. But falling in love is not that. I mean, it's not that easy to avoid, and the attraction and the testosterone, especially between two men. And we all have that need. Unless you're 80, then you become, oh, I don't give a
I
shit
mean,
anymore.
look, it's very clear to me now, this sense of, one of the subtitles I'm playing around with is the journey from loneliness to love. And so everybody wants air quote love. But from my perspective, it's like because I felt loneliness in that relationship. I was in a relationship, but I felt lonely. And that's
Well,
worse than being by yourself and feeling
way
lonely.
worse, way worse, way worse. Yeah,
Way
yeah,
worse. And
yeah.
so, but like finding that love for myself and for him, even though we don't have the container of what some might say is the traditional romantic entanglement or whatever. And I had to learn because like you, I didn't know, I didn't have an example. My parents were dysfunctional as fuck. And so, pardon my language, but like I needed to learn what love looks like for me and
Hmm.
to be full within myself. And so I can tell when someone's coming to me and from an insecure place, meaning from a place of like there's something wrong. They like need to be in a relationship or they need the validation or they need the thing and like they need it versus oh I'm whole and complete and a relationship would add to my
Add value.
experience. It
Right,
would
right.
add value, and then we can grow together. And like
Together.
your
Right,
bags,
right,
what
right.
are? I'll tell you my bags. You tell me your bags, and let's like go down the road together because everybody has bags.
The
So
best
I'll
bags.
carry mine. I'll carry mine. You carry yours. You're responsible. We're all responsible for our own baggage, but I want my baggage to be allowed in this space. and
Yeah.
for us
Yeah.
to like navigate and grow and all the things. And so
Yeah.
that takes time and that takes love, and it has to be, from my perspective at least, showing up as someone. I mean, I just had someone reach out to me yesterday. Ironically lives in Palm Springs. Going
Do I
through,
know him? Just kidding.
I don't know, maybe.
Maybe, you never know.
Very
I don't want
recent
to know.
breakup. He had been dating this guy for 30 something years and they broke up like 2 days ago. And he basically was trying to get me to come visit him. And like he's the kind of, very stereotypical, bounces right into, goes right into the apps, goes right into dating, goes right into that validation, which I've done before as well. There's nothing wrong with it. I understand it. And I'm not going to be on the receiving side of that. I'm not going
Yeah.
to show up for that kind of thing because
Yeah.
I feel it in my body as an insecure, like you're coming to me for a thing that
Yeah.
you need to go give yourself first.
Time.
You know what I'm saying? Like we
Yeah, of
need
course. Yeah.
people, so I'm in the middle of like giving myself the time that I need to
Good for you.
heal. And I'm
Good for
like,
you.
the ex is
Yeah.
like blocked down because he violated a lot of boundaries. And so I was just like, I'm on a sabbatical for at least, 30-day no contact, well, 40-day
Yeah.
no contact to actually heal. Like, and I'd never done that before. Like literally, like I'd never done that. I did that when we first broke up. I asked for a 30-day no contact, and he violated it by sending me an email, which I checked. I blocked him on the email, but it went through to spam. So now I'm like, I'm not even checking spam.
It's a process. It's a
It's a
process. It's a
process. So I mean,
process.
it's
It's
a
a process.
process
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
takes
Yeah. Yeah.
time. And so
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I would like any either
Yeah.
you or
Yeah.
anybody who's listening to just give ourselves and each other some grace.
Yeah.
I think there's a
And
lot of
be willing to be really honest with yourself. Because when the lights are off and you're laying in bed, be honest with yourself, whether you're on the app, whether you're going to look at the email, why you do what you do. Because no,
right,
it doesn't really matter who's watching you. It's you
right,
watching you.
right,
Why you do what you do. And if you want to do it for that reason, knock yourself out.
right, exactly.
Just bear the consequences.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for everything. I really enjoyed it. It's not what I
yeah,
expected, but it's always fun to have that. And for everyone that's listening, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you got some value out of it. So please subscribe. It helps me bring people like Case back um, and keep this machine rolling, as I
yeah,
say.
yeah.
So I'll see you all next week. Take care, everybody.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.